Hello students, welcome to Learner's Planet. Let's continue with the chapter Improvement in Food Resources. In the last session, I was discussing about the animal husbandry. Animal husbandry, which means the management, the scientific management of the livestock, which includes of course the rearing, culturing, breeding and other management for the development of the animals which are useful to the human beings in terms of providing different products like food material or different other products like. So now in today's session I'm going to continue with the same topic and we will discuss about the poultry farming. In the last session I explained about the cattle farming. So now let us see that from which other type of animals people can get the food material or the different other types of products. So let's continue about the poultry farming. So this poultry farming, it is basically the breeding of fowls, or in short, in other terms, I can say that it is the raising up of specific birds which are improved for the egg production and for the chicken meat. So usually these birds which are used here, these includes different birds like geese, ducks, quails, hens and so on. There are many different birds which are developed or which are raised in the poultry farms. But commonly it is the raising up of hens, and in this session I'm going to concentrate over the hens only. Now these particular birds or these fowls, they are actually raised up for the different purposes, which is of course related to the food only. Now if we are saying that for food it is developed, then what type of food is obtained from these birds, isn't it? So they provide us the eggs and the meat, right? These two things are obtained from these particular birds. Now there are many people in the country, or there are different places in our country where the crop alone is not sufficient to meet the basic requirement, the basic food requirement of the people, and thus to meet up with that thing, these type of sources are also used. Of course there are many people who are using such sources just for the purpose of taste or for the purpose of the nutrition. So these eggs or the meat, they are the rich sources of proteins and the fats, and these proteins and of course the fats also, they are the very important component in the human diet. Not only in the human diet, any organism, they require a particular diet, and in each case the proteins and the fats are the essential components, right? So of course these eggs or meat, they are the rich source of proteins. Now this does not mean that the other organisms or the other crop products, they are not able to provide this required protein to the organisms, but definitely over there the different sources are there which are having the rich content of the proteins or any other component, and that chart we have already studied. So now in this case, as we are concentrating on these two products, that is eggs and the meat, right? So for this particular purpose the fowls are interbred. Now this interbreeding or the crossbreeding is taking place here so as to improve the quality and the quantity of the eggs. Not only the eggs, of course the chicken also. Chicken which is used for the purpose of meat, and if it is eggs, definitely the eggs are having its own importance. So basically this improvement is related to the quality and the quantity of eggs as well as the chickens. Well, these eggs, they are laid down by the mature hen, right? Whereas chicken, it is I can say young age of these birds, isn't it? So since the purpose in this development is different, whether it is egg laying or the chicken development, the purpose is different. So for that purpose, the conditions required, the type of fowl which is grown up in the poultry farms, that is there is some differences in this thing, right? So let us see that what type of different breeds are present in the poultry farms to serve the different purposes. So here the poultry farming, as I already said, it is related to the breeding and raising of the fowls, and it includes of course like birds like hen, chicken, turkeys, geese, duck, quails and so on, right? And the purpose, as we have discussed earlier, it is for the eggs or for the meat. So those particular breeds which are grown up, which are raised for the purpose of egg laying, those type of poultry birds are known as the layers. You can see this picture here. These mature birds, they are used for the purpose of the for laying the eggs, and of course for that the male partner is also required, because eggs, how they are going to be produced, it is because of the fusion of the male and the female gamete, isn't it? So for this purpose, like male, for the male gamete, the male partner is also required. So they have to be brought up, or they have to be developed or raised up to the particular age till they are able to lay the eggs, isn't it? Whereas on the other hand, the birds or the poultry birds which are reared for the purpose of meat, they are known as the broilers. So broilers, they are having comparatively they are younger, they have low ages, and I can say they are the chickens basically, which are when they reach a particular age, they are sent to the market for sale. So there is the basic differences between the two. Now you can imagine that if it is a layer, the basic property, the nutrition, the requirements, everything is going to be different. Whereas for the broilers, since meat is to be developed in these organisms, the purpose or the requirement for the development of such species, such breeds, is of course going to be different. So let me show you one chart which is showing the comparison between these egg layers and the broilers. So the poultry breeds or the layers, that is egg laying birds, they are raised in the poultry farms for quite a long period of time. This period actually depends upon its capacity to lay the eggs. Till it is able to lay the eggs, they will be developed, and further it is removed from the farms. So basically, or in general, these birds, they start laying eggs at the age of 20 weeks, and till 500 days they can they can lay the eggs, 500 days of their age. So this type of property, uh, it sets an agenda that till what age, for how many days, these breeds or these birds, they should be grown, or they should be raised or maintained in the poultry farms. So usually when these hens, they are at the young age, the quality of the egg is quite good. But as it proceeds in its age, right? So in old age, what happens? The eggs which are laid down by these organisms, they are having thin shell. So with time, the quality gets deteriorated. So of course, the time and all these things, they have to be determined on the basis of these breeds, that for how much time period they are able to lay good quality eggs, having good number also. On the other hand, the broilers, they are maintained for meat, so definitely they are only raised for up to 6 to 7 weeks only. And you can compare this time period now. Now, of course, if they are raised up to 6 to 7 weeks, the purpose is to develop them structurally. The amount of flesh should be more in these type of breeds. So accordingly, they are fed for this thing. The particular conditions are provided so that they can grow in a very well manner and at a fast rate. This is the basic thing, right? Now these layers, they require enough space and adequate lighting. The lighting, all these things, they should be like they are exposed to light at a definite interval of time, right? Then the dim light or high intensity, all those things have to be managed, because lighting is it is playing a very important role in the development of such type of breeds. If the light is available, these organisms are able to feed. They do not feed if the light is dim or it is not available. Not only this much, the other activities also are controlled by the intensity and the duration of the lighting. Whereas now in the case of broilers, the conditions which are favorable for the fast growth, they are maintained. Further, the layers, they are maintained with the conditions which can provide high mortality. And of course, this high mortality is required for what purpose? So that up to a very long period of time they are able to lay the eggs. On the other hand, broilers, they are maintained in such a way that even if they are having low mortality, even then it does not make any difference, because after 6 to 7 weeks they are going to be sent to the market, right? They are sell further, they are killed further for the feeding purpose or other things, right? Now in the case of layers, a special diet is provided which is especially rich in vitamins, minerals, micronutrients, and so many other type also. But especially these calcium and salt level are maintained in the feeds of the layers. The reason is, see, if initially the health is to be maintained, right? The health is maintained in such a way that they gain the maturity at an early stage. As soon as they get mature, they start reproducing and they start laying the eggs. So that is something which is required here, isn't it? As soon as they start laying the eggs, the benefit is obtained. So this calcium and salt, basically it is required so as to maintain the this shell quality, the thickness, the this entire color and all other properties of shell is to be maintained so as to protect or so as to provide the protection to it, right? And of course to maintain the quality so as to prevent it from breaking down, isn't it? So all these things is to be maintained here. uh, on the other hand, the broilers, they are provided the right which is rich in proteins and vitamins, especially the vitamin A and K is to be maintained here at high concentration as compared to the layers. Besides that, fat content should also be adequate. Why is this so? Because the reason behind this is that because they have to grow fast and they have to maintain their muscular quality, or they have to maintain the flesh content in them, right? If that thing is good, so that quality is favorable, it is preferable for the in the case of broilers. Besides this, in the case of layers, all basic conditions are maintained so as to facilitate the egg laying capacity in these organisms. Whereas in the case of broilers, the feathering and carcass quality is actually maintained. Uh, the broilers, they should have less feathering over there, and carcass quality, that means the dead organisms, they should have good quality. They should not get rot very fast. So basically all these conditions are required for such type of breeds. Now, how all these things are managed, how these conditions are managed, this we will discuss further later on. Now I will discuss about the specific breeds which are generally raised in the poultry farms in our country. So, as we have studied in the cattle farming also, that there are different breeds. There are local breeds and there are the foreign breeds. Local breeds which are known as the indigenous breeds, and those which are foreign breeds, they are also known as the exotic breeds, isn't it? So here in this case also we are going to discuss about both type of breeds. Poultry breeds, in this case, in India, that is a local breeds, the different four type of poultry breeds are available. Again, I must repeat here that in this case, in this session, I'm concentrating on the hen, right? So, with respect to this part, I can say there are four poultry breeds of hens. They are Asil, Chittagong, Khagas, and Busra. So these are the common four breeds which are available here in our country, and out of all these, the Asil is used as a, commonly in the poultry farms by the breeders, of course. And this is because they are having the specific good features, and those features or those varieties, those important properties in these particular breeds is that, number one, it provides good meat. And of course, meat is one of the reason for raising such type of organisms, isn't it? Then is the high egg laying capacity. They have enough power, they have enough capacity to lay the eggs. That capacity is good. Besides that, they have a strong build-up, and they are having good resistance power towards the against the diseases. Despite of all these particular features, they are having some drawbacks also. And the drawbacks is that they actually their own small size. Comparatively, they are having the small size. Besides that, they are having slow growth rate. Then the size and the number of eggs is also, I mean, size is small and the number of eggs is also very less. So because of such type of reasons, there is some loss to the breeders, right? However, the quality of the eggs is of course very good, right? Although they are having good quality, but the loss is of course in terms of the product yield. So this product yield is the point that has to be improved in such good species or such good breeds of these hens. On the other hand, the exotic breeds, even they are having some qualities which are preferred by the breeders, but of course, on the other hand, they're even also having the drawbacks. So now let us see what properties are present in the exotic breeds. So they are these exotic breeds. They are of course from the foreign countries, and they are especially known for the number of eggs which are produced by them and their size, the size of the eggs as well as the size of these organisms. This body size is quite small, and this is actually favorable because if the body size is small, then the nutritional and the maintenance requirement becomes economic. It becomes quite less, isn't it? And of course, the number of the eggs which are produced by them, it is good enough. So all these things are of course preferred by the breeders. But on the other hand, they are having some drawbacks, and the most important drawback is the resistance. They have a less resistant or low resistance towards the diseases. So of course, if they are less resistant, they cannot tolerate the surrounding conditions. They cannot even tolerate the pathogens which are present in surrounding, or they become they become diseased very soon on exposure to the pathogens. So these are some of the drawbacks because their tolerance power is not good. So the commonly used exotic breeds which are farmed in our country, they are like White Leghorn, Rhode Island Red, and etc. So the pictures you can see here, and you can compare them with the Asil, the one of the breed I have shown you in the earlier slide. So you can see that how the build-up is actually different, and definitely considering the advantages and the drawbacks of each type, the further improvement is required. So if these type of breeds, the exotic ones and the Indian or the local breeds, if they are they are crossbred, then in the offsprings, the new characteristic features can be introduced. Like the hybrids which are further produced, they can have the good egg laying capacity. They can have a good size of the eggs, as well as the species can become resistant to diseases, and the comparative size can also be reduced. Of course, it is not such an easy job. For that, many experiments are to be conducted, and then further the new hybrids are also developed. There are new hybrids which have been developed in our country also, and they are cultured in the farms definitely, which has improved the production quality in these farms. And examples of such breeds are HH260, IBL 80, then B77, and so on. So these breeds are commonly, they are the hybrids, and they are used for the production of the eggs in the poultry farms. In the case of improvement program, the species, the Indian breeds, they are actually allowed to improve. They are allowed to crossbreed, right? Or in simple terms, I can say that the crossbreeding of Indian and foreign breeds are done, and that is for the various types of features. And you know what those desirable features or desirable traits are? As we have discussed earlier, we can summarize these points here. It is like the number and quality of chick, then a small broiler parent for the commercial chick production. Then comes the summer adaptation capacity. That means their tolerance to the high temperature. I'm sorry. Then the maintenance requirements, they should be low, and that is of course related to the size of the organisms. Then comes the reduction in the size of the egg-laying bird, with ability to utilize more fibrous, cheaper diet formulates, which are actually formulated or which are produced by using the agricultural byproducts. So in short, the concept is that the diet, it should be rich, but it should be cheap in terms of economy. Then besides this, the size of the organism should be small, but the size of the eggs should be more. Right. On the other hand, the another size of egg-laying birds should be small, but the size of the broilers, it should be large. So accordingly, the diet is planned and it is formulated so as to provide them, so as to grow them. And of course, sometimes even it is controlled by the genes also, and for that purpose, the crossbreeding is crossbreeding is solving this particular problem. Further, the improvement is one more thing is there, that is related to the resistance towards the diseases. Even that is one of the desirable trait which is considered in the crossbreeding program. Now the thing is, since simply developing the hybrid is not sufficient so as to improve the production. If the production is to be improved, the growing conditions should also be managed. So further, let us see that what type of management of the poultry farms are required so as to improve these particular production. So this management of poultry farms, it is done with the aim of growing these or raising these poultry birds, and this is of course for the egg production or the flesh content. Now depending upon this purpose for which the poultry birds are raised, the management practices are going to vary. So as the reason is of course, as we have discussed earlier, that the egg layers and the broilers, they are having a different type of development pattern. They have different requirements, and thus the management also varies accordingly in terms of nutrition, shelter, and the disease control. So here this is a picture which is showing the poultry farm, and the basic thing that you can observe is that it should be well ventilated. So let us see that what all different types of practices are required so as to manage the poultry farms for egg layers and for the broilers. So while developing or while maintaining these egg layers, the special care is to be taken, and that is with respect to the different phases of the life of these organisms. Right. Initially, there is a growing stage. So during the growing stage, up to sexual maturity, we can say, the care taken is quite different from the time when it starts laying the eggs. So in such cases, of course, this care or these phases, they should be considered while planning for the management of the egg layers. Right. Now, usually, a layer starts laying eggs at the age of 20 weeks. And at the commercial level, it can actually lay eggs up to the age of 500 days. There may be some variation with respect to the type of breed or the type of bird which are grown here in the farms. So accordingly, this time should be managed. Now, of course, this raising time, right, it depends upon the quality and the number of eggs which are laid by these particular birds. The time, see, as the age is as these organisms are growing, they get old, the quality of eggs is also getting deteriorated. The shell becomes thin, and other qualities are also they also vary, right? So it has to be watched by these breeders that till what time these organisms are providing the good product and the good yield, right? So accordingly, they are managed in this way first of all. Besides that, the other desirable characters are also they're considered for the improvement, right? And that desirable characters are like the egg numbers, the sexual maturity. That means the species or the breeds which are able to mature at an early stage, they are quite more preferable in these poultry farms as compared to compared to those which gets maturity at the old age, or at the old age comparatively, right? Besides this, the other features are like egg weight, body weight, feed efficiency, egg size, then egg shape, shell color, shell thickness, internal quality of the eggs. All these points are considered while selecting the particular type of layer for the commercial purpose. One more important point is that the fertile eggs, usually they rot rapidly as compared to the infertile eggs. So these layers, they can even lay the infertile eggs. So such species or such hens which are laying the infertile eggs as well, they are selected for the commercial production. And of course, for such purposes, many different aspects should be considered. They should be managed in the poultry farms. And what type of management is required? Let us see. Well, this management is in terms of shelter, space, water availability, feeding time, and the nutrition. Other points are also considered, and that is that we are going to discuss further. Now, all these things which we are discussing here, the requirement for all these things varies in the different stages. That is during the growing stage and the laying stage. So accordingly, the things or the farms, they have to be managed. So the very first point is related to the shelter. The shelter, it should be kept clean, and the hygienic conditions, they should be maintained. Simply washing or cleaning is not sufficient. Proper disinfectants should also be used so as to maintain the hygienic condition in the surrounding. Right. Besides this, to maintain such cleanliness in the shelter, the floor should be slopy. And of course, this a slopy floor, it actually facilitates the proper cleaning and the drainage. And of course, this proper drainage or this is required so as to keep the surface dry. Besides this, the shelter should be well ventilated, and this ventilation is required for the proper circulation of the air, proper circulation of the fresh air, right? After this, the next point is the space. So space, requirement for the space varies in the growing period and in the laying phase. So during the growing phase, these organisms, they require good space, because if there is the overcrowding, then the growth is going to be suppressed. And of course, so as to prevent this particular thing, enough space has to be maintained. Further, during the egg laying period, they need enough space, but is less as compared to the growing space. Besides this, the adequate light supply is also required. The intensity of light, its duration, and the appropriate temperature, all these three things, they are required to be managed in a very proper manner, because this increases the fertility and laying output of the hens. So this fertility and the laying capacity, right, if it has to be improved in these organisms, of course these three factors should be managed. And for that, proper these bulbs or the lights, its on off system, all these things are to be managed in a proper way. After this, the next requirement is for the water. Clean and cold water should be maintained in the farms, and this is essentially required so as to avoid the heat stress in the birds. Right. If there is a lack of water, it can not only affect the health of these organisms, but even it can reduce the egg production in them. And thus, for such purposes, this water availability should be maintained in a proper way. Next point is related to the feeding time and the nutrient content in these feeds. these are the next factor which of course determines the growth of these particular organisms and their egg laying capacity. So usually these organisms, they eat the food in a small quantity, right? And at regular interval of time they need it for, right? So for this purpose the feed should be available all the time in the area where these organisms are raised. Fine. Besides this, breeders should properly watch that whether these organisms, these birds, they are feeding properly or not. They are using the feeds properly at a regular time or not. When these birds, they do not feed properly, the condition like if they are diseased, if they are not feeding, that means they may be having some disease. So that should be, this point should be considered. It should not be avoided. It has to be considered, and the person or the breeder should look after it, because if the single organism is having some disease, that can spread in all other organisms also, isn't it? So these things should be managed here. Besides that, if the organism is under some stress, or if the food is not tasty, then also they tend to eat a less amount, and of course for such purpose the special care should be taken. If good feeding is maintained, it will not only affect the health, as I said earlier, even it is going to increase the egg production in these organisms. So of course this timing is very important. Now the point is the type of food these organisms are eating. The layers, they should be fed with the energy rich diet. See, they have to lay the eggs in the laying period, isn't it? And for that the energy is required. So the diet which is given, or the feeds which is given to these organisms, they should be rich in the vitamins, micronutrients, minerals and other essential components. The proper calcium and salt level is required. It is to be maintained in the food items, right? And why is this so? Because the calcium deficiency, it can result or it can reduce the number of eggs as well as the size of the eggs. Right. Besides this, the eggs will have the soft shell, or the even the shell-less egg can be produced. The eggs will get cracked easily. The color of egg is also not maintained. Besides, these hens will have the laying problems also. So all these things, they should be considered here, and this is why the calcium is to be maintained. Now if I consider this salt concentration, then if the low salt is there in the feed, then it can actually result in the sharp decrease in the egg production. Not only this much, because of such deficiency, the chickens, they will start pecking each other and eating feathers. So this particular feature decides, or it indicates that there is the deficiency of certain nutrients in them. So accordingly, a proper feed should be prepared, which is rich in all those essential components which are required for the growth of the layers, which are required for the maintenance of the egg laying capacity, egg quality, and the diet, the sufficient diet which can fulfill their basic needs. So these points should be considered regarding the nutrition. Well, the next requirement is related to the lighting. Duration and intensity of light is of course a very important factor which is affecting the fowl development. Now in this case, as I already said, that if the lights are off, then chickens do not eat, and if they do not eat, they are the egg laying capacity, or the production of eggs gets reduced, right? So this thing is of course a very important point. Further, if this thing has to be maintained, then you know what important aspects should be there which has to be considered. Number one is that the lights, they should not get dim, right? The intensity should be maintained, and this is possible if the proper checking is there, a regular checking is there. Besides that, they are cleaned at a regular timing, at a regular interval of time, right? So because of that, the light, the intensity is maintained here. Besides that, whenever required, the bulbs, they should be changed accordingly. Further, the next point is the duration. that for how much time period the light is to be the chickens are to be exposed to the light. So this time period, it actually runs between 14 hours to 17 hours per day. You know, if I'm saying it is 14 hours to 17 hours per day, then it does not mean that it is at a single span. There it is exposed at a regular timing, at a regular interval, right? Besides this, the if the light is not provided, if it is less than minimum timing, right, then the drop in egg production is observed. Besides that, if the chickens are exposed to too much light, then in that case they reach the sexual maturity at an early stage. Now you may think that if it is so, then of course during the growing period much more light could be exposed to these organisms so that they can obtain the sexual maturity. But in that case the drawback is there. Such type of organisms, such type of layers, they actually lay the very small eggs. So here this point is compromised. So this is the reason that the proper exposure to light should be there for 14 to 17 hours per day, and it should be increased gradually, it should be maintained gradually, and next thing is that the proper interval, right, that has to be set so as to expose the chickens to the light. But yeah, one point is of course very clear that the amount of light which is required by the chickens during the growing period and during the laying period, it varies. Right. Now let us see that what certain changes are required when the broilers are produced or developed in the poultry farms. So these broilers, they are maintained in the farms for the meat purpose, right? In these organisms, they are simply grown for 6 to 7 weeks. They are raised only for this much duration in the poultry farms. And besides this, another aspect which can determine this time period for which the organisms are to be raised in the farms, it is the weight of the organism. These organisms, the preferable weight in these organisms is around 700 grams up to 1.5 kg. So in either terms, when the requirement of the user is fulfilled, after that these organisms are sent to the market for the meat purposes. Now if this weight has to be maintained or this age is to be maintained, so definitely mortality is not the factor to consider here, right? The organisms with low mortality rate are fine in this purposes, whereas in the case of egg layers, the age or the mortality plays a very important role, right? Now considering this point, of course the diet is to be maintained. These organisms, they should be fed with a special diet which can assure the good growth rate and better feed efficiency. In this case, in such organisms, a special care is taken to avoid the mortality and feathering and carcass quality. Feathers, I mean the skin which is lacking, I mean which is not having a lot of feathers, is more preferable in such cases. Besides that, the carcass quality, that means the rotting of the dead organism, right, that quality is also it has to be managed in such type of organisms, that is the broilers. And of course, to fulfill such type of qualities, right, these organisms, they need some different types of management practices, or they need different type of conditions, right, in terms of their housing, in terms of their nutrition and the environmental conditions. All is different up to some extent as compared to that of the layers. In such organisms, conditions are maintained which are favorable for the rapid growth of the organisms and the low mortality rate, right? These two are the most important factors here. And of course, see, the lighting, if it is maintained, the organism is able to feed at a fast rate for the long period of time, isn't it? So conditions, as we have studied in the earlier part of this session regarding the layers, that is to be applied here, but in the alternate manner. For example, feed which was given to the egg layers, in that case especially the level of calcium and salt is to be maintained, right, so as to maintain the quality of the eggs, or the egg production capacity of the organisms. But this factor is not so much affecting in the case of the broilers. What type of food will be required here, which can build up the body, which can bring about the rapid growth in these particular organisms, right? So for such type of quality, protein rich diet is required for such type of organisms. Now this protein alone cannot maintain the structure of body structure. Along with this, adequate amount of fat and vitamin A and K is especially provided to these organisms, so that they can have the good meat quality. Besides this, the another factor which is to be considered in the case of layers as well as the broilers is the protection against the diseases. Of course, it is very important. Otherwise, as I already said, it can again affect the quality. It can affect the growth of these organisms, the quality of the eggs, or the quality of the products. So the very first thing is that what type of diseases are probably taking place in these organisms. So usually these poultry birds, they suffer from the viral, fungal as well as the bacterial diseases. Besides this, there are many parasites which can cause diseases in the poultry birds. And not only this much, the other type of diseases which are common are related to the nutritional deficiency. So all these special care should be taken so as to avoid such type of infections in these organisms. And how this can be done? It is by taking or following some preventary measures. For example, like proper cleaning and sanitation of the living area, spraying of disinfectants at the regular intervals, and most importantly, the vaccination. Specific vaccinations are available nowadays in the market, which should be given to these organisms as a preventive measure. So these are some basic points related to the poultry farms or poultry management, and further we will discuss about some another type of animal husbandry, so that we are going to continue in the next session. Till then, thank you so much. Have a nice day. Goodbye.